What's up, y'all? Today is going to be a video in which I give recommendations for Blackathon, specifically Team Hatshepsut. So I have never done a recommendations video per team, and I thought this year, why the heck not? We have 3 teams for Blackathon, and the theme of Blackathon is warriors. I am very, very excited about that theme. Last year's theme was travelers. As y'all know, Blackathon has been running for 5 years as of now, and I cannot believe that this readathon has existed for half of a decade. That is utterly insane. This year's prompts are really exciting, and I love the ones I came up with. As y'all know, Team Hatshepsut is named after Egypt's longest running pharaoh, who was known for architecture, trade, making her city incredibly wealthy, as well as being a little bit of a villain. It's been speculated about how she ascended to power. Was it through coercion? Her gender identity has also been speculated upon, and she's just really interesting. So if you're not familiar with her, I would check out her history. All of the prompts for her team are themed after her in some way, her accomplishments, her traits, her achievements, and that sort of thing. I'm going to give y'all recommendations for each and every prompt to make sure that y'all have enough books to read for this team. You have enough options, and I'm going to be giving recommendations for multiple genres. Prompt number 1 is a book of any genre by a trans Black author. Now, I have some of my favorite authors that I get to recommend to you. They are Akwaeke Emezi. We also have Rivers Solomon, and every single one of their books is an easy 5 out of 5 stars. We also have Kaysen Colander, for which I highly recommend reading Felix Ever After. That was such an amazing coming of age story about a non-binary Black kid who is on a mission to get revenge against the person who posted photos of them prior to their transition and, you know, basically just outed them to the entire school. And I loved the lengths that this character went through for receiving revenge, and also the questions about morality and grief and working through trauma. There is a really fantastic romance within the book, one that I actually really enjoyed, and y'all know I'm not a romance person. There's just a lot about Felix Ever After that I really appreciated and enjoyed. The writing was utterly phenomenal as well. We also have Nisi Shawl. Now, I have never read any of Nisi Shawl's works, but Everfair is a book by them that I have been very, very interested in, and I'm hoping to get to. It's a book of theirs that I've been deeply interested in, and I'm hoping to get to this Blackathon. From noted short story writer Nisi Shawl comes a brilliant alternate history novel set in the Belgian Congo. What if the African natives developed steam power ahead of their colonial oppressors? This sounds incredible. I absolutely love alternate history books and have heard amazing things about Nishi as an author. Prompt number 2 is a Black girl protagonist who is not afraid to be loud, confrontational, and to take up space. And boy, do I have some recommendations for y'all. This one is not out yet, but it is just something that I want to make sure is on your radars, on your TBRs, and that is Delicious Monsters by Lyselle Sambury. I have an arc and I'm halfway through, and this book is just mind-blowingly incredible. This is from the amazing author who gave us Blood Like Magic and Blood Like Fate, and essentially this book is a Black horror YA paranormal horror kind of story where we are following 2 girls, one of which is very, very much not afraid to make waves, and she is like a paranormal investigator and has this paranormal investigative show and ends up investigating this haunted house that the other girl lives in, and it is so phenomenal. It's very creepy, it's very disturbing, it is unsettling. I love the depiction of Black girls. I love so much about the storytelling and the neurodiversity that's included in the story. There's just everything about the book thus far I am enjoying, and you're gonna see that vlog be wrapped up and uploaded for y'all very, very soon. So please add this to your TBRs if you are into YA horror, if you're into Black horror, if you love yourself some horror noir and want to support this incredible author. We also have Bitter by Akwaeke Emezi. Bitter is the perfect embodiment of this prompt because she is just a character that is not afraid to tell somebody off. She is not afraid to be rude. She is very closed off to the world, and she is not in a space to really receive love at the beginning of the novel. And so she just isn't the most likable protagonist. It is really, really short. So that is another thing that makes it great to read for the readathon, because it is a short novel. But the amount of character development that happens within the span of like 200 pages is wildly impressive. Akwaeke did an incredible job of giving us representation for a Black girl who is grieving. And I'm also going to be recommending Vern from Sorrowland. This book is by the amazing genius known as Rivers Solomon, and it is an amazing speculative horror piece of literature. It is incredible, genre bending, phenomenal, and Vern is just outright scary. She's notoriously rude. She does not really care about other people's feelings. She is not one to tiptoe around anything. And if you are a fan of things like body horror and experimentation in books and wood settings, just any of that, I think that this would be an amazing book for you. And this is a story about a woman named Vern who is living in a compound. She's basically part of a cult, and she escapes with her 2 twins. She ends up giving birth to the twins in the woods, and then her body starts to endure unimaginable changes, and she kind of goes out on a mission to shut down this compound and is trying to protect her children, even though the leader of the cult is hunting her down. It is amazing. It is everything. It is one of my favorite books of all time, and I highly recommend that you read it. Now for my thriller lovers, I can highly recommend As the Wicked Watch by Tamron Hall. This is a book by an investigative journalist who has a talk show, and I didn't know that. I didn't know anything about the legend that is Tamron Hall before going into this book. And the protagonist is named Jordan Manning, and the protagonist is also an investigative reporter. There are a lot of parallels between the protagonist and Tamron Hall, like even down to the haircut, but we're not even going to get into that. This is essentially one of the most criminally underrated books that I've ever read. It is a thriller where we follow Jordan Manning, who is not afraid to make enemies, and she is going to do anything to tell the story that she is working on. And basically, when Black girls start vanishing in Chicago and turning up murdered in really gruesome ways, she wants to stop at nothing to uncover the story. She betrays a lot of people, she steps on a lot of heads, she makes a lot of enemies, and she is just known for being very unpopular within her office because she's not going to let anything stand in her way. It is an incredible book, but loads of content warnings. It has some heavy horror in it as well. I definitely love this book, and I can't wait for the next book in the series to drop. We have The Three Mrs. Grays. This is a mystery suspense novel where we are following 3 women who all find out that they are married secretly, unbeknownst to each other, but to the same man, and they find out when he's in a coma, and they all show up as like, hey, I'm here to claim my husband, and then their lives start to get into danger because they're investigating who shot their husband and put him in a coma. And one of the girls in particular is very, very brash, very unlikable. Actually, I would say 2 of them are. And so if you like a good suspense, cheesy, soap opera, sexy, kind of murder mystery sort of thing, attempted murder, I don't know, this is going to be a really, really good book for you. Also, The Perfect Ruin by Shanora Williams. This is another thriller, and it was a freaking blast. I loved this book. It is, whew, oh my god, we are following a woman who will stop at nothing to get revenge on another woman, so she infiltrates her life, and throughout the book you're trying to figure out why she hates this woman so much and why she is on a mission to destroy every single thing that this woman has built. And she is definitely not afraid to step on toes in order to pull off this scheme, so she is going to be another really good character to follow if you're trying to satisfy this prompt. And of course, I could not have this list without mentioning the legendary Queenie, who is the absolute queen of being a proud, loud Black girl. And this is one of the most polarizing books ever. Honestly, people either really love or hate this book, but for me, in my personal opinion, almost all of the criticisms that I've heard for Queenie have been rooted in sex shaming and trauma shaming and not having a good understanding of how PTSD can show up in Black women.
But that is its own discussion. So
Queenie is a British Jamaican young woman. She is full-figured. She is not afraid to be herself, at any cost, but she's also dealing with very debilitating, untreated mental illness. And she has just like a slew of affairs with men. It's about her dating and her messiness. And it's not labeled outright, but definitely there's a sex addiction. There is a sex addiction component. Wow, I can't even say it because guess who's not getting laid? She is one of the most misunderstood characters that I've ever read, but when I tell you that this book is so deeply close to my heart, I truly and utterly mean it. And if you are willing to go into it with an open mind, then I think it's going to be a very beneficial book. Then we have a book of any genre with impressive creative architecture, or that is set largely in one building, such as a college or an office space or a hospital. These prompts are tailored so that you can pick any genre. And so for those of you who are kind of trying to stay away from science fiction fantasy, you're not really interested in it at this time, a really good recommendation is going to be My Sister the Serial Killer by Oyinkan Braithwaite, I believe. This is one of my favorite books. It is a little novella. It is a debut that had a lot of mixed reviews. I personally loved it. A lot of people didn't like that it was comedic horror satire, and so many people felt that this book did not count as a contribution to the horror genre because of its comedic and satirical nature. However, horror satire is absolutely a thing, and it is something that Black directors and writers have been producing for decades, and Braithwaite did an amazing job of solidifying herself among those incredible writers that came before her. This is a story about a nurse who is in love with a man, and her sister is a serial killer, and she's literally always having to clean up her sister's messes. And then her sister sets her sight on the man that she's in love with, and it's got a very toxic sister bond. It is set largely in the hospital. It's funny, it's not too heavy, it's not too gory, and it is a really fast-paced read, so I highly recommend this one. The Bells is an incredible book to choose for this prompt because the architecture in the story is amazing. It is so lavish and lush and creative. I love this book so much. I highly recommend y'all skip the sequel. You gotta just trust me on that. Just skip the sequel. And I like never trust people when they say to skip the sequel, but if you have ever trusted me,
please, for the love of God,
just read The Bells. It works as a standalone and it is incredible. So I have not read this book in years. I'm trying to remember the exact synopsis. This is one of the first books that I ever tabbed, hence the tabs being further out than I am of the closet. But essentially this is a book where we follow these people named the Bells. And the Bells have the ability to add color and shape and texture to people's bodies. So in this world, people are born gray and formless, and Bells have the ability to use their magic in order to make people look literally however they want. And so they provide this service, I mean, kind of honestly against their will, where people go to them weekly and they just change their bodies, change their shapes. You can do anything, anything imaginable, polka dots on your skin, that kind of thing. And it's just seen as a power thing in order to have, you know, the ability to pay for a bell to provide this service. It is an incredible book. If you're looking for a YA fantasy to impress you, definitely check this one out. We also have You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by Akwaeke Emezi. This is Akwaeke Emezi's latest, and it is set largely on an island at a house that was built by this amazing master celebrity chef, and the house is gorgeous. It's described in detail. It is beautiful. It is such an incredible book. Y'all know I'm not a romance fan, but it is one of those forbidden romances. We're following Feige, who is a very traumatized young artist who is invited to go to an island with the guy that she is very, very lightly seeing, and she sees his father and falls in love with him, and it's about their forbidden romance. It is very, very good. It's a phenomenal exploration of grief. It is aggressively well written, and I highly recommend. This book actually actually works for the first 3 prompts. It is by a trans author. It features an unapologetically Black protagonist. It is set in elaborate architecture, and it satisfies the 4th prompt of lavishly wealthy characters. And the last book that I have here is The Witchery. Look at this gorgeous cover. Now, this is a book that I have not read yet, but I received an ARC last year and I did a terrible job of reading it, obviously. So this is set in Florida, and we are at a coven academy, and this girl is taken under the wing of the infamous Red 3, one who is a death witch who wants nothing more than to break the town's curse. And it also involves like a group of boys who make sacrifices to the girls in exchange for protection. So if you like witchy books, covens, academia, dark academia, I think that there's a sapphic relationship in this as well. It's a debut author. This fits the prompt, sorry, I have my dog's hair on my upper lip. This fits the prompt of a book that is set largely in one place. Then we're going to recommend 2 sci-fi books that I really, really love, and they are Do You Dream of Terra 2 and The Space Between Worlds. These books are set in space, so I think they inherently go with this prompt of impressive architecture. Space Between Worlds is an unforgettable, complex romance between a Black woman and an Asian woman. In this story, the protagonist basically has to travel to other worlds where alternate versions of herself may or may not exist, and there is basically trouble where someone starts killing off the alternate versions of herself, and she has to figure out who it is. It is incredible. I love this protagonist. She is one of those characters that is very, very close to my heart, and I highly, 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 highly recommend it. And then we have Do You Dream of Terra 2, which is a space exploration multi-POV book by a Black female author who is also a scientist, I believe. It is incredible. This is a caveat.
I have not finished this book.
And most people who have read it say that it's absolutely incredible, but I have heard mixed things about it too, so beware of that. Then we have House of Hunger, which takes place at a mansion, and if you're not familiar with this book, which really took the book community by storm last year, this is a vampiric-esque novel where we are following a girl who decides to become a blood maiden, and essentially blood maids are those who get their blood drained from them and consumed by the wealthy elite, and so she's taken into a mansion to become one of this woman's top blood maidens, and there is a romance between her and the mistress of the house. There is danger, and it is like an amazing horror, paranormal, sapphic commentary on class, vampiric thing. It is a really, really good book. Now, this satisfies the prompts of a Black girl who is not afraid to be loud or confrontational to take up space. It satisfies the prompts of impressive creative architecture or set largely in one building, and it satisfies,
why can I not say that word?
The prompt of wealthy characters or discussions about class. So this book is going to check a lot of boxes. We also have Riot Baby by Tochi Onyebuchi, who is one of my absolute favorite authors. This fits a lot of prompts as well, and it is a quick read, but I say quick hesitantly because quick in the sense that it's short, but not quick in the sense that this is a very aggressively intellectual book. It's one of those books where, unless you're just super, super, super good at analyzing themes, but also know the ins and outs of Black culture and history very, very well, you're not going to get everything you can out of it on a first read, because I know I missed a lot, even as somebody who is fairly good at analyzing literature and also very well versed in Black culture. So be mindful of that. But this is one of the most incredible genre bending books. This is essentially a book where a girl who has abilities is trying to free her incarcerated brother. She has this incredible ability to basically wreck cities with her own hands, and she is forced to choose between freeing her brother and liberating the city, that kind of thing. I don't want to go too much into it because it really is just something that's better to simply dive into, but it explores class very, very aggressively. It explores the surveillance state very aggressively. It explores the surveillance of black bodies very aggressively, and a lot of people have called this dystopian, but it is not a dystopian, especially considering the fact that a lot of the things that are happening in this book are literally happening to people within this country right now. Be mindful of how you describe this book. This fits the prompts of a unapologetic black character set largely in one building, because you also get perspectives of the brother who is incarcerated, and also a book that explores class. This is also the group book for another one of the teams, which we're not going to talk about in this video. We also have Son of the Storm and the 100,000 Kingdoms by N.K. Jemisin. Those are both fantasy books. They're going to be series. The first book in Son of the Storm is out, but the second is not. This book explores class pretty well because there is a caste system in this book where one of the main characters, Danso, is at the very bottom of. So this is a really good way to explore class in a fantastical sense, and I love this book. It's one of my favorites. Again, for lavishly wealthy characters and books that explore class, I would highly recommend Cherish Farah. This was one of my favorite reads for Blackathon last year. Like, I want to reread it. The audiobook is phenomenal. It's so good. It basically follows this girl who is a scheming motherfucker, all right? She is a protagonist that's like, her head is, whew, her head is a wonderland. She is confrontational, she is manipulative, she's really smart. She's a lot, and she's one of my favorite protagonists of all time because being in her head is so much fun. And basically, she is obsessed with her best friend, whose name is Cherish, and she and Cherish have been thick as thieves for a really long time. They're both obscenely wealthy, but her family falls on hard times and she ends up staying with her best friend Cherish. But while she's staying in Cherish's house, her mind starts to slip, she starts having hallucinations, that kind of thing. It is very Get Out-esque. It is incredible if you want to explore sapphic, coded, toxic dependent female relationships. Definitely read this book. And it is YA, but I think that it reads very comfortably for new adults and adults. We also have The Getaway by Lamar Giles. Now, I have not read this book, but it was one of my most highly anticipated books of last year, and I didn't read it because I'm a terrible person. But this is a YA horror novel where we are following a protagonist that works at a resort for wealthy elite people. Things outside of the theme park start to get worse, and then the richest and the most powerful families start arriving and they refuse to leave. Unknown to the employees, the resort has been selling shares in an end-of-the-world oasis, the best of the best at the end of days, and wealthy clientele are determined to get what they pay for. So that is definitely all about class. It definitely is going to be set largely in one building as well. Very, very, very excited about that. If you have not read Allegedly by Tiffany D. Jackson, now is the perfect time to do so. This is Tiffany D. Jackson's debut horror novel, and it's what put her on the map. Now she is one of the biggest, most prolific, incredible Black horror authors known to man. I really, really adore her. And basically this is following a girl named Mary who is an incarcerated child, and she finds out that she is pregnant and is fighting to keep her baby. So this is literature, it is horror, it is great commentary on class, and especially class as it intersects with race. It is also largely set in one building, and it features a unlikable Black girl protagonist as well. You have to read this, especially if you like plotting, scheming characters, complex characters, but they still have a soft side, that kind of thing. We also have another one of my favorite books, which is Lakewood by Megan Giddings, and this is a good horror book that explores the experimentation of Black people, both in history and in the present. So basically, the protagonist signs up to be a part of this study, and during this study, her teeth start falling out, she has hallucinations, she's going through all these body changes. It's terrible. She's not allowed to tell any of her friends or family about it, but they give her like $50,000. And she does it because her family is in extreme debt after the loss of their grandmother, I believe. So this book is freaking incredible, and it also fits the prompt of set largely in one building because she's locked up in this fucked up place. You absolutely have to read. If you've been putting it off, now is the time. I have 2 more books left. The last book that I'm going to recommend specifically for this prompt is going to be War Girls and Rebel Sisters. This is a science fiction book series by Tochi Anya.
It's a duology, not a series.
But it explores class very inadvertently, because essentially the people after the apocalypse that are able to flee Earth and move to space are the ones with money. And so it's about what happens to people who are left behind, the Black people specifically, the poor Black people that are left behind, and what's going on in space. So there is a pandemic component. It talks a lot about the Biafran War. This is by an incredible Nigerian author, and I think that these are truly unmissable YA science fiction books, and the science in them is really, really cool. In my opinion, Rebel Sisters was like 10 times better than War Girls. War Girls I loved. I think I gave it like a 4.5, but this book is off the heezy. So if you read War Girls and you were like, it was good, whatever, you have to read Rebel Sisters. Like, oh my god, especially the 2 of them together. I can't wait to reread them at some point. Don't forget that the group book is, where is it? Where are you? Do not forget that the group book is She Would Be King by Wayettu Moore. It is one of the most incredible under-celebrated books that I've ever read in my life, and it genuinely makes me mad that so many people haven't read it. It is genre bending, it's amazing, it's informational, it's touching, it is everything one could want in a freaking book. So magical realism and spiritual realism and literature, please, please read this book. That is gonna do it for this video. Definitely check out the full Blackathon announcement video for more details on the readathon, all of the details, all of the daily reading sprints that's gonna happen. And comment down below with what team you are going to be on. My team will officially be Granny Nanny. Yes, that's right, I am officially declaring for Team Granny Nanny. Hello, Akasha. That's gonna do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I have a playlist with all of the previous Blackathon related videos down below, as well as links to my most popular recent videos, my Patreon where we do fun stuff. Stay safe, be good to yourselves, be good to others, and I can't wait to see you in my next video.